Hi, welcome to Hope with Jonathan, and on this channel we will be discussing kidney disease, kidney dialysis, and kidney transplant. On this channel we will also allow kidney patients to tell their incredible, amazing story, their personal journey with kidney disease, dialysis, and transplant. We will also advocate for them a living donor. Guys, I was about 30 minutes from death, ended up being stat flighted in a helicopter to a hospital where I ended up in the ICU and woke up on dialysis. They removed about 30 pounds of fluid. My potassium was a 9. They had to shock my heart and bring me back to life. Guys, if you want to hear more stories about this, please stay tuned and stay with us.
Baron Dodson is listed with KidneySolutions.org. Kidney Solutions on Facebook, a network of transplant experience. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. KidneySolutions.org is representing Baron Dodson out of Burleson, Texas. He is currently in search of a living donor. He's currently on hemodialysis 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays at U.S. Renal Care. Baron Dodson is married with children and is in definite need of a kidney. Guys, again, I really appreciate you coming on and listening to Hope with Jonathan podcast. Really appreciate all the support and the feedback, and I really appreciate the listen. I want you guys to really pay close attention to this podcast because Baron Dodson was a complete renal failure patient that ended up with COVID-19, which is a real scary situation, especially with being immune compromised. When your kidneys are shut down, your immune system is not good at all, and definitely not a good situation to be in. Definitely a scary situation with COVID-19, especially with high risk patients such as kidney disease, kidney dialysis, kidney failure patients. So Baron ended up surviving COVID-19. Not only that, but when Baron went into kidney failure, guys, he spent 2 weeks in the ICU, basically, out of commission and had no knowledge of what was going on. And when he woke up, he thought it was the next day. Again, stay tuned for this interview. This is going to be an extremely inspiring story of overcoming battling kidney disease. Hey, Baron, how's it going?
I'm doing all right, doing all right.
Well, I appreciate you doing the interview on my podcast, Hope with Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
Well,
And,
thank you for having me.
oh, not a problem, not a problem. And wanted to bring you on to, share your story and, get your story out there, Baron. We
Okay.
had talked on the phone and discussed a little bit about your story, and you have a very unique story. Why, why don't you give us a little back history on yourself? You can kind of talk about who you are and how old you are, and if you got a family
Uh,
and all that.
yeah, okay. Um, I guess the political way to say it's African American and mixed with a little other stuff.
Yeah.
um, I'm 47. I have 4 kids. I've got, uh, two are mine and one stepdaughter. And then I have married. Uh, I was working at one time. I used to work for Alcon here in Fort Worth. Um, and
Yeah.
now now I'm disabled because of my kidneys have stopped working. Um, so I'm disability right now. And then, I like to hunt, like to sit on the beach. I'm kind of an outdoors person, and this disability has kind of made me an indoor person.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but we've got 4 dogs, 2 turtles, 3 chinchillas,
Oh, wow.
2 lizards, and that's less than what we used to have.
Oh, wow. So you're kind of an animal person, huh?
Yeah, we've got a kind of like we usually have like kind of a petting zoo. We
Yeah.
take the pets to the other schools, and since my disability, I substitute teach. So
Oh, okay.
I've been doing that for the past 3 years. I kind of have backed off this year just because I actually did catch COVID.
Okay.
Um,
Why don't you talk about that for a little bit about catching COVID-19?
yeah, I we actually well, it was weird because in dialysis they make you take a flu shot. So like on, I guess that a Thursday I caught the flu. They gave me a flu shot, and then that Friday and Saturday I started having aching muscles and was just my muscles just started hurting, and I had a headache. Didn't have any fever. Um, I wasn't throwing up. I didn't have any diarrhea or anything like that. Well, but then that Saturday, my wife got sick, and she
Mm,
had everything. She had the aching body. She was throwing up, had the diarrhea. She didn't have
wow.
fever though. There was no fever. So them checking for fever ain't always a sound proof that you have it,
Yeah.
or don't have it. Uh,
Right.
and so since she had gotten sick, I was like, well, we need to get tested. And so CVS, they have in any CVS, they have it. Now, some CVS, they have rapid, and then the others, it takes a while before it gets to you. So anyway, we went that Tuesday to get tested, and, kind of ran through the process. And I was probably not showing symptoms after about 5 days.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, my wife was in bed most of those 5 days. She was in bed probably 3 or 4 days. Oh, she only got up to just use the bathroom. That was it. Um, but they didn't give us we didn't get the notice until Saturday.
Right.
So it was like 5 days later before we even knew that we were positive. But by the time they told me I was positive, shit, I was already getting better. Um, and then
Wow.
my wife got better. She got better. But I guess the government calls you. I guess they get a notice that you're positive, and somebody from the government actually called,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, they just actually just ask questions. How are you feeling? Do you have any symptoms right now and stuff like that? And by the time they called me, I was like, I didn't have any symptoms. My wife was still kind of coming out of it. But they just said, if you have a headache, take headache medicine. If it kind of have flu like symptoms, take flu medicine. Um,
Yeah.
Other than that, and then there were questions like, or they were like, well, if you have trouble getting out of bed because of the flu, contact. I was like, well, how am I supposed to contact somebody if I got trouble getting out of bed? I said, or they said if you have trouble waking up. And I said, if I have trouble waking up, I said that's gonna be a miracle in itself for me to call you.
Yeah, that's true. And with having kidney disease, I know you've already mentioned that you're on dialysis.
Mm-hmm.
Your immune system is already compromised because of that. And so
Right.
then, and then getting the COVID-19 as a transplant patient myself, and being formerly on dialysis, I got transplanted during the COVID-19
Wow.
ordeal. So it's been a nerve-wracking year and a nerve-wracking time for 2020. I kind of feel like COVID was around a little bit earlier. I think around 2019,
I
it
believe
was
so too.
lurking.
It's just nothing was said.
Yeah, and but that had to have been very traumatic for you to go through that, because you kind of didn't know exactly what was going to happen due to the fact that your immune system is compromised.
Well, because you don't know what to expect, because you hear other people going through other stuff like can't breathe, or it happening to you. You get better, and then even after they got better, they got sick again. I mean, you hear
Yeah,
all kinds of stories, and so it's like you don't know really what to expect. So I just, make sure I just keep getting up in the morning, and um, I have a aunt who's a RN. She's like she's a pediatrician nurse, an RN, and she just said that they said it's good just to, every once in a while just take deep breaths to make sure there's air in your lungs,
right.
and so you don't know what to expect from even after you get better.
Yeah, like I said, a very nerve-wracking time, especially with being immune compromised. It's not for the faint of heart, and
No.
dialysis is not for the faint of heart, and neither is kidney disease. Um, why don't you give us a little bit of your backstory on how you ended up getting diagnosed with kidney disease?
Well, it's almost, yeah, it's a long story. I went to a doctor and had one of those where they take a test of your kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time, I guess the first time that I noticed there was something wrong with my kidneys. We had a doctor at Alcon on site, and he was looking at I guess the blood records, and he noticed that I guess my creatine levels were high, or they were
Right.
getting high. They weren't high yet, but they were borderline. And he said there was something going on, and so I went to a doctor, and they did that test where they take a sample of your kidneys to see if there's anything wrong with them, and there was nothing wrong with them. They couldn't see
Right.
anything wrong with them at that time. But as time went on, and I had high blood pressure, um, but it was never regulated, and it just went on for what should probably went on for 5 years. Um, but
Oh wow.
but up to the point of when it actually, I mean, I guess I knew that my kid, and there were probably episodes all in between years where stuff happened, and I just didn't notice it was because of my kidneys. But when it really happened is I got sick, um, and this happened all in 24 hours. I got sick. I went to work. I was feeling fine that morning. Went to work, picked up a guy. We went to go do some remodeling. Picked him up in Dallas. Went back to Fort Worth, and we were in the building. All of a sudden, my body just started aching and hurting all over, and I started
Mm.
running a fever. And at that time, I did
Mhm.
smoke, and thinking that was going to make me feel better. Of course, I had a couple of cigarettes. I'm not going to lie, And but in the process, I just couldn't breathe. And so
Yeah.
I called my wife, told her to come pick me up so we could take the other guy back to Dallas, because I told her I didn't think I could drive that far. And so we waited for her to come pick us up. She drove us. Anyway, we got back to the house, and before we went to bed, I just told her, once we take the kids to school, just to take me into the emergency room, because I don't know, I can't really tell how bad this was or how bad I was. I just know I was having problems breathing, and
Yeah.
and so
That's got to be scary.
yeah, and so we took the kids to school. We went to the emergency room at 8 o'clock that morning,
Mm.
and my wife said we were up there all day long. At this point, I don't, and it's kind of funny. I'm having to being told what went on at this point, because from 8 o'clock that morning until I woke up, I have no memory of it. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's crazy. I had no memory of it. So at the time that I woke up, I was thinking it was the next day. Well, 14 days had passed. They had sedated me, and
Mm.
in those 14 days, I guess the first day we were there, my wife had told me that we were there at the hospital and they were running tests on me, trying to figure out what was going on. And then come to find out, my heart rate was getting all regular, um, which part of it was, I guess, my potassium levels were high for my heart. But the
Yes.
doctor that I had before, though, I don't know, some kind of ways my doctors had got switched around, and that last doctor she actually had me on potassium pills. And I was always wondering why she had me on potassium pills if my kidneys are not working right. But
Right.
but like you said, they said my levels of my potassium was so high that they didn't even know how much potassium was in my system. It was so high because it was off the charts. And
So,
yeah, and
so you were already having kidney issues, but they had you on potassium pills?
yeah, they had me on potassium pills.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And so
Oh,
when I was those 14 days, I was in ICU, and they had me sedated. Then they had me sedated just because my heart was just going crazy and they couldn't get it under control. And so that's why they
yeah.
had to sedate me. And come to find
Uh-huh.
out that I had pneumonia, and one of my lungs was halfway filled with water. So they were,
Oh,
it was just a miracle that I was able to breathe when I walked into the emergency room, because it was already filled
mm.
with water. Um, and so I was in ICU for 15 days, and or 14 days, and I guess they put me on dialysis 24/7 to clean out my blood and get the water out, because it wasn't, my kidneys at that point they just had stopped working. And they called it
Yeah.
acute kidney disease failure.
Injury. Yeah.
Um,
AKI
yeah,
is what they
yeah.
call it.
And
Yeah.
so at one point, even when I came out of it, the doctors they assumed that at one point that they would come back, but they
Okay.
haven't. They've never. It's been since the end of 2016. Uh, they still haven't come back.
So you went from AKI to ESRD, which is end-stage renal disease.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I went through a similar situation with my potassium levels, and then they called my case a AKI, and then I ended up they changed it to ESRD after they seen that my kidneys. They were hoping that dialysis would wake my kidneys up, but it didn't
Yeah, it
happen.
didn't happen. But in the process, apparently, what I was told when they were trying to get my heart back to working, and then also, trying to, I guess, get the toxins out of my blood, and get my blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
because they were trying to regulate my heart and my blood pressure and try to, get everything even. Um, my heart stopped. My heart actually stopped twice.
Whoa.
And there's nurses all in there, but apparently There was one particular nurse. It was just one particular nurse, no other nurses, just one particular nurse. Every time my heart stopped, when she touched me, I came back.
Oh,
And that was the
wow.
only way they could have got me back.
Wow. Do you think that she had some sort of angelic powers, or or some
Well,
sort of touch from the good Lord above?
well, I went back to go find her, and she wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So basically, you ended up on dialysis at that time when after you left. How long you was in the hospital for? Over 2 weeks?
I was in the hospital for 28 days.
28
Yeah.
days. Okay, so nearly a month. And when you left the hospital, you ended up going on hemodialysis and PD. Did you start off with a catheter in your
I
chest?
started off with a catheter in my chest. I had that in there for probably about a year. And then they
Yeah.
switched me over for doing a fistula. I had a fistula put in. Well, and part of that year that they were in it, I had a fistula put in after 6 months, but they were trying to make sure that it was, working and stuff before they started using it. Um,
Yeah.
and so it took about a year, and then and then I started using my fistula in my left arm, and I've been using
Yeah.
that fistula ever since.
Yeah. I have my fistula in my left arm too, on my lower wrist area. And yeah, I remember mine having to mature and all
Yeah,
that before they could even use it. And at the beginning stages, it was a little rough because it wasn't exactly matured enough to use. And
exactly.
uh, I went I went through infiltrations and swelling and bruising and all that. It was a fun transition from the catheter to the fistula.
I
Um,
feel I think I still go through some bruisings and stuff sometimes when you get a tech they don't know how to stick you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I tried to lean upon one of my techs in my center. She was a 20-year experienced tech, and she was
Yeah,
amazing. And I always tried to get her as quickly as I could, if I could get her and request her. That was the one that I felt most comfortable with. So,
yeah. As long as I can just
but
get one that listens to me when I tell them, just don't stick me there, stick me over there, because you stick in one spot all the time. Like some of them do, it gets when it gets infiltrated or the skin gets so thin that it doesn't
yeah,
heal once you get stuck.
yeah, yeah. And the way my fistula is designed, it kind of curves a little bit, and
Oh,
they would guess the arterial would be fine. They could get that right away, but the
and that's the
venous
one at
one
the
would
top. Yeah.
always give them trouble. Yeah, they would kind of guess on the venous one, and my vein, if depending upon how my wrist was laying, my vein would roll sometimes. But
My
do you ever
yeah,
experience any issues
my
like that?
my vein actually it's I guess they said most veins are like they're straight up and down, but mine is in a
Yeah,
snake. Yeah,
yeah,
it has
that's
like
what.
it almost has like, and I mean when I say it's in the snake, it has like two humps. So it actually
Yep.
curves like a winding road actually. And so
Uh
once
huh.
it actually,
Yep.
the parts where they start at sticky, you kind of start to inflate. The rest of it, you don't really know where it's at. You kind of have
Yep.
to judge really good, and even some of the parts at the
Yep.
top they try to get to, you can't get to them because it's too close to the top, and so you can't really stick right there. But the ones at the bottom, but like you say, it kind of, I can kind of tell that it's moving around. And
Yeah.
they say the ones that when it curves like that, it's because of our muscle mass.
Yeah. So you're currently doing hemo in center with. Are you doing it with Davita, or
I'm doing it with
is that who?
US Renal Care, the South
Okay.
Campus over there by Hughley in Burleson.
Okay. And you're going 3 times a week for about
Oh,
3.5 hours
I wish it
of
was
treatment?
only 3.5 hours. I go, I go Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, um, and I do
Uh-huh.
that for from 5:30 until 11. Yeah, so it's
Oh,
around.
wow.
It's 4.5 hours, but it takes them about 15 minutes to get me on and 15 minutes to get me off, and then
Right.
I'm on the machine for 4.5 hours.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it's pretty much, I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost a job. It's like it's a little bit more than part time. Sitting there, you're there almost all day long. And then with this
Yeah.
pandemic, before you're not really supposed to eat while you're doing it anyway, but you can't even snack on anything or even have something to drink with the pandemic going on
Yeah.
because they don't want you taking your mask off because you got to wear a mask on the whole 4.5 hours you're sitting there.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yep. They got to take those precautions because of the COVID
hmm
19. And so you're doing the treatments
hmm
in center, and you said in Burleson,
yeah, I'm in
Texas.
Burleson, Texas.
Okay. Is that near Dallas?
We're closer to Fort Worth. We're about 5 minutes from we're about 5 minutes from hitting Fort Worth, and from Dallas we're about it's only about 30-minute drive to Dallas.
Okay.
Going down, yeah.
So how long have you been on
Oh
dialysis
wow,
now?
it's like I said, it's been since October the 21st of 2016 until now. So that's probably been a good, what,
Yeah.
3, going on 4 years?
Yeah. Can you tell the people that are listening what type of effects does dialysis have on you?
Oh wow, it just well, I do stuff. I'm big with my church, and I do stuff with the youth group. And so as far as I can do stuff like if it's a weekend event, I usually drive the kids. We've got vans to drive all the kids to where we're going. And so I'm usually one of the guys
Yeah.
that do the transporting, but if it's a weekend event, I can kind of go and try to schedule
Hmm.
it to where I do my dialysis just before I go on with them for a couple of days. But if it's like we like go skiing or go on a trek like mountain climbing or just hiking through Colorado, if it's a week deal, well, there's no dialysis out in the mountains or normally or most of the
Yeah.
places where you go skiing. They don't have,
Yeah.
there's not very many of them. And if there is any close, they're like an hour away. So, when there's ice and snow, you really don't want to have to be driving an hour away through ice and snow. Um, it just,
Yeah.
just going on doing vacations with the family. Um, it makes it a little bit harder because you've got to make sure there's a place there to do dialysis. Um, Even if I go
Yeah.
out of town to go see my sister that lives in Austin, which is only 2.5 hours away, like I said, you got to find a place, and even if you do find a place, you got to make sure they've got room for you because there's just so many people that are needing kidneys nowadays that it's not just
Yeah.
me that's affected with all of this stuff that's going on. It's
Yeah.
getting a job is nobody wants to hire you. I've actually
Right.
had two or three good companies like starting off that they had all the 401ks and insurance and everything that wanted to hire me, and I've made it to like the third interviews, but once I
Yeah.
try to be honest with them and tell them that I have to do dialysis, then I never hear from them again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. For sure. And kidney disease not only affects you as an individual, but it affects, everybody in your surroundings, your immediate family, your friends. I mean, it affects everything, relationships, sometimes your mental state of mind, your mood, and all those type of things. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Um, well, as far as my family, they're pretty. I mean, they've got my back on this. I mean, if they see that I can't do something, then they jump in to help me. I don't really, even my kids. I mean, like I said, I've got an 11-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son, and then I've got a son that
Yeah.
he's 20 years old, but he's in college. Um, and then I have an older daughter that she does her own thing. But my younger kids, they help me out. If I need something to get, instead of me having to get up and get it, they'll go and get it for me. And um, I guess I think the most frustrating thing is for me is just not being able to not being able to work. I don't know if that's weird or not, but I can't work like I used to. I'm not, even with this disability pay, some of my people that I talk to, they say, yeah, won't you just, um, let me just be frank. Just be, I get what, $3,200 in disability, but and some people
Yeah.
that's good for them. Well, that's not good for me. I was working at Alcon and I was bringing in $8,000. And so I can't do that no
Yeah.
more. And that's what my family was used to. And so until I get a kidney, I can't work anymore. I've got the experience, but people don't want to hire you.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I totally can sympathize where you're at with that. I was in the tech industry and I did contracting, and I worked in basically IT
Hmm.
type stuff, and then I would do hardware repairs and worked on printers and all type of things. It involved walking, and it
Right.
involved lifting some parts and boxes and all that type of stuff. And I remember being on dialysis, and there was no way. I just didn't have the physical strength. I mean, I would come home and from a dialysis treatment and sometimes crash for
Yeah,
two
I've done
hours
that
just
too.
to try to get my
Hmm.
strength back. Yeah, yeah, because it's draining, and I had issues sometimes with my blood pressure, and it would just plummet and drop and be really low, especially after treatment. Either they took off too much fluid, or for whatever reason, my blood pressure would just really drop. Did you have any issues now with your
Yeah, now
like
as you
blood
say that,
pressure
here
and
here
things
here
like that?
recently I've been having it was high at the beginning, but here recently it always drops when you do your
Hmm.
dialysis. But here lately, like right at the beginning of me even starting the dialysis, my blood pressure it's been really low. And
Yeah.
I've still just told them, because I feel fine. I don't feel dizzy or anything like that or lightheaded. So I just tell them just continue on with taking the water and stuff off, continue with the treatment. And it's really low, but then it doesn't get any lower
Hmm.
and it stays where it's at. But then as soon as they get me off of the dialysis, it raises up, and it's weird. It's weird how that
Yeah.
works. As soon as they pull those needles out and I stand up to do it, it actually the my it's fine. But while I'm doing dialysis, yeah,
Yeah.
like you say, it just drops, and they don't have a reason for it. They don't know why that does that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think it's associated with your body adjusting because they just took
Hmm.
off a lot of fluid, sometimes. And so your body's got to adjust to that. And let's talk about kidneysolutions.org and Kent Bressler. So how did you get associated with Kidney Solutions and
Oh
Kent
wow.
Bressler?
Well, actually, I was a patient next to me we were talking about transplants, and he was talking about getting a transplant. Well, because actually the discussion was, how is it that in all these other countries they can buy a kidney, but in the United States you get thrown in jail. And so
Okay.
and so we were just talking about, about getting a kidney and stuff like that. And he just, and he started talking to me that he was with this organization, Kidney Solutions, and he was talking about, there was this guy named Kent, and at one time that, he needed a kidney, and he said that they were talking, and
Yep.
he's gone through the same thing, and so he's been using this organization in order to help other people that had the same disease, because like you say, there's not a lot out there for for the kidney disease. I mean, and so there's not a lot of recognition or anything. And so he gave me Kent's email address, and so that same day I actually emailed Kent, and he got back to me that next day, and so that's how we started talking. And yeah, I think the guy that I talked to was Mark. Mark Goodwin was the patient. The other guy I was talked to, and so
Okay.
but yeah, that's how I got in touch with them. And so he's been helping me with just getting my name out there, because I'm one of those people. I don't have a Facebook or any of that kind of technology stuff, but they've
Yeah.
put me on Facebook, or I've had, like he said, I've they print me out some flyers, and I've been putting flyers out at different locations uh, in the
Uh-huh.
city I live in, and actually the surrounding cities all over, like Fort Worth and
Okay.
Burleson, Benbrook, just any cities that are surrounding around, just any place. Mostly, a lot of them was just like feed stores, because they've already got places where you could actually put stuff up and to advertise with people. And after I did that, I did have a few calls, but it was just before the
Okay.
pandemic. And like I said, it was
Okay.
lucky for you. Like they just started doing it again, I guess, around August or just before August, when you got your kidneys. But from what
Yes, sir.
I heard, the pandemic, when they started shutting everything down, they had actually stopped completely doing them. So I guess the few,
Yeah. Yeah, there was a short period. I think they may have
yeah.
halted things,
But
but
at the beginning of
yeah.
I guess the pandemic, and was it March? They I had a few people called in, but I guess they left messages. There was nobody there to answer them. So I don't know if
Okay.
those people ever called back or anything like that. But
Yeah.
so I've been still just, me and Kit still been talking back and forth, and I've been trying to get more flyers out there. And like I said, they've put me on his website. They've got a website, and then put me on their Facebook.
Yep.
They've got
Yep.
different people that have, followers, thousands of followers, and so they put me on. You get put on their Facebook, and I've like friends of mine. I've had them to put me on their Facebook, and it's just, it's
Yep.
pretty much just a waiting game after that.
So I just want to let you know, Baron, that I was a patient with KidneySolutions.org as well. And Kent Bressler is my personal mentor and advocate, and he's an amazing, amazing advocate. And now I call him friend. And and of course, he all
Right?
services are free with them. He doesn't charge anything. He does it out of the love of his heart for
Yeah, I haven't
kidney
been charged for
patients
anything.
that are in
You're
need
right.
of it. Yeah, and he won't charge you because that's his principle. And KidneySolutions.org. If you're listening to this broadcast and come across this podcast and you want any information on Barron, you can reach out to KidneySolutions.org. You can find us on Facebook at Kidney Solutions, a network of transplant experience. And you can definitely contact Mr. Kent Bressler, and he will definitely give you any information that you will need regarding Baron's situation as far as transplant is concerned. And again, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on and listening to this podcast with me and Baron Dodson. And man, I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story and expressing your views on things.
Yes,
I got
sir.
one more question for you though, before we close out. If you had a chance to advocate for yourself, a living donor, what would you like to say to the people out there to try to advocate for yourself, a living donor? What would you like to say to that
Oh
person?
wow, it's a life changer. I mean, uh, oh wow. I don't know. Sometimes words can't even express how to feel if somebody was able to, you know, it's like giving my life back. I mean, because my life has been taken away from me now,
Yes, sir.
and I just,
Yes, sir.
you can't, even though your mind tells you that you can do the stuff you do, your body tells you something else, and
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. I just look forward to that day, to where somebody will, willingly will
Yes,
give me my life back.
yes, sir. Well, that's an awesome response to that question, Baron, and we're going to leave it right there. Guys, if you're listening, you come across this podcast, you can reach out to kidneysolutions.org. It's a website. There's also a Facebook page, like I said, Kidney Solutions, a network of transplant experience. We're also on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. And you can reach Kidney Solutions at 830-285-2140. Again, that's 830-285-2140. And you need to talk with Mr. Kent Bressler, who is a 33-year kidney transplant recipient himself. And he is the CEO of kidneysolutions.org. And he'd be more than willing to give you any information on Baron Dodson.
Thank you,
Baron, I really
Jonathan.
appreciate you coming on. Do you have anybody that you would like to say hello to or send a shout out to?
Well, send a shout out to my family, my wife Gloria, and my son Damien and Anthony and Mighty Soul and Ivory. Yeah, no,
All
sorry.
right.
My daughter just walked in. I said her name and she ran in here. She's like, "Did you call me?"
Yep. I've got two. Yep. I've got two of my own, and the only time they show up is for dinner. They're teenagers now, so they pretty much stick in their
Yeah,
room and do their own
I'm
thing.
they're getting to that point.
But yeah. Well, like again, I really appreciate you, Baron, doing the show, the episode podcast with me, Hope with Jonathan, and I definitely am in your corner. Been where you're at, Baron, and again, we're going to be believing for
Thank
you,
you.
praying for
Thank you.
you, and sharing for you. We're gonna share this podcast,
I
get your
appreciate it.
story out there, and again, Baron is listed with kidneysolutions.org. So, guys, if you're
Yes, sir.
interested at all in becoming a living donor, please reach out to kidneysolutions.org. Talk with Mr. Kent Bressler. And again, guys, this has been another episode with Hope with Jonathan. You guys take care. Stay blessed. Get your
All right.
kidneys
Thank
checked
you.
out. Thank you.
Again, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in to another episode with Hope with Jonathan. This will conclude our episode with Baron Dodson. As you could hear him explain his story and battling with kidney disease and dialysis. Guys, it's not for the faint of heart, and as you can tell, his story was definitely an inspiring one. Definitely one that will stick out in my mind. 2 weeks in the ICU. Definitely was not for the faint of heart. I commend Baron for staying engaged with trying to, continue to take care of himself as he awaits transplant. And Baron, again, is with kidneysolutions.org. You can reach out to Kidney Solutions. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And you can definitely reach out and take a look at us at kidneysolutions.org. And like I said, you can look us up also on the social media. And I appreciate you tuning in to another episode with Hope with Jonathan. And again, guys, please take care of yourself and get your kidneys checked out if you're having any symptoms at all. And remember that type 2 diabetes and hypertension are one of the leading causes of kidney disease. Please get yourself checked out. Guys, stay safe out there and take care. God bless. It's been another episode with Hope with Jonathan. And again, his name is Baron Dodson.